everybody would have been busy with their, and now it's done. So with the lockdown changes and it's opening now, and a lot of changes are going on across the country. And similarly, Vidyadan and Media and Entertainment Skills Council are also trying to make sure कि आप लोग बोर नहीं हो, changes आते रहें, variety add होती रहे, and आप लोग enjoy करने के साथ साथ learn करते रहे. So again, we have Piran with us with the 2-day workshop by True School of Music. True School of Music is something really amazing. Like they have so many alumni who have been working within the industry. Even I'll be honored to announce about Aankh Micholi, a group, a very, very famous indie band, which is a non-Kashmiri indie band to have toured Kashmir in recent times. Otherwise, normally, वहाँ पे Kashmiri bands ही ज़्यादा popularized हैं. And with TSM, they have Shubham Goyal working as a full-time music producer at the Music Factory. He has a score of over 200 episodes for different web series and TV shows. For example, Ishq Aajkal, Pyar Ke Papad, Skulls and Roses, Detective Dev, and just to name a few. So let's get back with today's session with Piran with us, and we will be delighted to call him here. And yes, yesterday's selfies were really good. We'll wait for a few more today. And do keep tagging us on social media, Vidyadan, MESC India, and Vidyadan, and of course, True School of Music and Piran himself.
Hey guys, good morning. How are you guys doing? It's a very good Sunday. Hi Pooja, thank you for having us here. Thank you for the introduction. If I may begin with today's workshop, I would also begin with introducing myself. As you already know, my name is Piran Irani, and I am a faculty member with the True School of Music, Mumbai. I have been producing music for over around 10 years, but I would not really give 10 years as the entire credit, because the first few years is always learning. So when you have to say that you're producing music, well, the first few years always goes in learning and making sure your skill set becomes good, and then you eventually start making music. So it's...
Sorry, I'm interrupting. So your 10 years started after your graduation, or you started in the school?
No, 10... hey, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
So 10 years started after my my higher secondary. That's the 12th, basically.
Okay.
So that's when most of the traditional education was replaced by unconventional education, which was for me music production. So right now, music production is becoming into more of a conventional sort of an education line, more than the unconventional one, if you know what I'm trying to say, because there is more awareness now, more people are interested, and it's just a very recognized sort of a skill set and an art form, you know. So it has completely evolved since where I started, but I think it's going in a very good direction otherwise, and I'm really happy to see where it's going. So yeah, it's been a good ride up till now, and the learning process is never ending. You know, that's how the saying goes. You always keep on learning. So let's keep our thinking hats on, and let's just move forward with the learning process. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I need to be the I need you to give me access to screen sharing, Pooja. I still don't have it.
Okay, let me check. Okay, we are just checking. Okay. So here you go with the access, and you can.
Perfect. Yeah. Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay, all the best.
All right, guys. So today's session is pretty much going to revolve around the whole ideology of music production and how sound recording began. All right. We all know what the term music production is, but most of us, or rather a few of us, have basically not really gathered on the idea behind how sound recording began. You know, it's everything has a history and everything has to start from somewhere. And it's always good to know the history, and it's always good to know how things begin, so we get a sense of gratitude in a certain way, and just to understand that, you know, people have gone through a whole lot of difficult situations before the ease of availability was granted to us, you know. So today's session is going to pretty much be around the history and context of sound recording. We're going to talk about the first ever recording device ever, which was created, the first sound recording tool. Then we're going to speak on the music producer and the multi-roles, the different kinds of roles a music producer can take, jobs, career opportunities, importance of music in ad films, so important. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I've got this really nice video I want to share with you all. Then we're going to talk about music as a product and a service. And then we're going to speak on music as an emotion. You know, it's very, very important. And then at the end of it, we can have a Q&A round. You can ask me any questions you guys want, and I'll try my best to answer them all. Okay, so music production and sound recording, very interesting conversation, very interesting topic. And so let's start from the beginning, all right? So before humans invented the means to record sound, sound used to be played and performed live. Now, I don't know how many of y'all have seen old movies where they project the film on the screen and they have an orchestra playing in the background, right? So think of it like that, basically. Back in the day when sound recording, the whole art of recording sound was not created, all right? How would you put audio to a video? There were no means to do that, right? So the only means to do that or put audio to video was basically play the recording live. So that's how they used to do it. Music used to be performed live. There used to be a movie being projected on the screen in front of you, and there would be a band or an orchestra playing with whatever visuals are going on at the moment, right? That was pre the recording phase. Now, once they were performed live, these are a few images of bands and orchestras performing live music when sound recording was not yet created, not yet invented, not yet mastered, not yet. They didn't make it very, very easily available for the masses. You know, these things are very important, because if we create a new sort of technology, we need to make sure it actually works. And once it works, we need to package it in such a way that it's easily accessible for the lot, right? Because we're talking of mass sort of distribution in a way. So we've got to make sure that what we make is perfectly evolved to a certain extent where everyone can actually enjoy it, right? And so the story of sound, sorry. So yes, the story of sound recording and reproduction began in the year 1877. Thomas Edison invented the phonograph. Yes, that's right. Thomas Edison, mostly people know him as the inventor of the light bulb and a lot of other inventions that he has gone through. He was a genius of his time. And just like any other geniuses, Thomas Edison also had a few flaws, but were not technically flaws, but they were a part of his genius. So let me get to that. Okay. So this is an image of the phonograph, aka the speaking machine. Why is it the speaking machine? Because you see the mouthpiece in the front of the phonograph. That's where you would talk into. That's where you would speak. It's like right now, if you want to record your voice on your cell phone, you look at the part where the microphone is, right? And you talk and you look at the mic and then you talk into it. Similarly, you would speak into this sort of a mouthpiece over here, and then you would spin the lever on the left, and that's how your voice would get recorded. Okay, that's how your voice would get basically recorded and get captured on. It will get captured on this wax sort of a cylindrical tune. The cylinder that you see behind, which looks like a piece of can, which was made of tin. So that's where the voice got recorded, right? So now this is Thomas Edison, basically, back in the day. It's a caricature of him. And this is him with the phonograph, which was taken in November 21st, 1877. So The first words ever recorded on the phonograph was "Mary had a little lamb." Okay, it was more than that actually. There's a video where people claim that the first actual words were "Hello, hello, hello. Mary had a little lamb. Her fleece was white as snow." That was the entire line. Okay, so Thomas Edison is yelling into the phonograph. He's like, "Mary had a little lamb," but all that was captured was barely audible. So that's when he got demotivated in a way, because what he expected great results in the first try itself, but all he heard was few glitches and abysmal parts of his recording basically. So post the barely audible "Mary had a little lamb" scenario, Edison moved on to other things and other inventions. Recording music was pretty much not on Edison's list. Okay, because he, like most geniuses, they create something, then they move on to the next, move on to the next, move on to the next, and that's how they just keep on moving forward, and probably end up creating one thing, but end up leaving a lot of incomplete creations behind. But the beauty about this is once someone begins creating something, there are other people to pick it up and sort of evolve that creation into something else. That's the story of sound recording today. So let's get back to that. Edison was the one who created the phonograph. Let's keep that in mind. Okay. Recording music was not on Edison's list. Poor sound quality on the phonograph, frequent replacement of the cylinders. You see the one in the middle over there, where the mouthpiece is connected to that cylindrical looking dome. That was the problem over there. Okay, because recording sound in that format was not very feasible. All right, so you have to continuously and frequently replace the cylinders. All right, a decade later, Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, and Charles Tainter realized that Edison's phonograph was impractical. Why? Because of that cylinder. Okay? Impractical because you can't really keep on changing the cartridge or changing the cylinder over and over again, right? Also, the sonic results on the phonograph were abysmal, and recordings wore out almost immediately. So, sonic results mean the recording of the sound. Like when the sound was recorded, it was not clear, right? It faded off immediately. It's like taking up one of those old school cameras where you click a picture, and before the picture gets printed on the piece of paper, the picture film basically, it fades away in time, because what's the point of taking a picture then? If you take a photograph, it should at least last for a long period of time. It should imprint with the paper, fuse with the material it's being printed on. If it does not do that, there's either something wrong with the film or the camera or the color pigmentation. Something needs to be fixed. Similarly, in this situation, the cylinder, the tin cylinder, was where the problem lied when it came to recording music. Post that, the gramophone was invented. Okay, Emil Berliner is the founding father for the gramophone. What Emil Berliner did was he took Edison's phonograph and he studied it and he turned it around and he created something called as the gramophone and the record. The record is basically the vinyl record that we all know of as the big black colored circular disc, right? Which used in LP players, used in old record players, It's called the vinyl record, it's called the LP record, right? So Emil Berliner basically was the first inventor to stop recording on cylinders. He stopped using Edison's method of recording on cylinders. What he started doing was he started recording it on flat discs, right? That's the record, the Berliner record, right? Flat disc. He was like revolutionary back then. It's like, I'm not going to follow, I'm going to take his invention, study it, figure out how the whole concept works, and then implement it in my own sort of a fashion, in my own sort of a style. So the flat disc or the record was invented. All right. This is Emil Berliner, and this picture was taken, I don't know when, but that's him with his early version of his gramophone. Okay. If you see on the very left, under the big black horn, you see this round spherical looking circular design. That is the disc that he used to record it on. Back then, the disc used to be smaller, but as it all progressed and evolved, the disc became bigger, and the size, now there are a couple of sizes of the records that you can actually buy and use. Okay. Now, this is Emil Berliner's gramophone. Have we all seen what a gramophone looks like? I hope that we all have seen what a gramophone looks like. I have a few images of a few gramophones, which we will get to, but this is what the first ever, his version of the gramophone looked like. This is what he had basically created. Now gramophones look pretty much like this. They are used as ornaments, they are used as tabletop accessories. Only the pure and the really good music aficionados are the ones that use the gramophone to actually play music, but it's mostly on a show value right now, right? Because now we have record players of many good decent companies which can play the record and can connect to better speakers and so on and so forth. So technology has become that much better. Gramophone also has sort of evolved in a way to a certain piece of technology, and now this is basically used as like a showpiece in a way, but there are still people who might be using the gramophone, and it might still sound fantastic and still bring back the essence of that era when it was created. So Berliner's flat disc. Okay. The beauty about Berliner's flat disc was that it was simpler to play back. Okay. It was capable of cheap mass production. Let's get back to that point. And now it's also known as the vinyl record, the gramophone discs. Okay. So simpler to play back because it was more easier. It's round, it's spherical. You could also collect a couple of these discs together because they all were flat. They would stack up against each other as compared to the original tin cylindrical sort of a cartridge, which is not practical if you actually think about it right now. Imagine the DJs roaming around with cylindrical tin cartridges before playing a DJ set. That would really like tick them off because they'll be carrying this massive suitcase which you travel for a 1 month vacation, but that's all filled with just cylinders of music, right? So flat discs, more convenient, right? Stack up against each other, one suitcase with a lot of music in it. Right? So it evolved basically from the cylinder to a more spherical sort of a disc. And it's capable of cheap mass production. Why is that important? Why is mass production always important? Because this is not something that he made for himself. Berliner didn't make a flat disc and the gramophone just for his fancy. He created it so people could benefit from it, right? So how can people benefit from something if it's only made available to them at a good rate, right? So mass production, cheap mass production was like number one key element in distributing these records and why it basically got famous, right? Now it's known as the vinyl record and the gramophone disc we have pretty much come there. So let's talk a little bit about the vinyl record, okay? The vinyl record was simpler to play back because it was more convenient. We all can picture as to why the convenience factor kicks in right now, all right? Okay, so why is it convenient in a way is because it was flat, simpler to put in, simpler to move around, simpler to, it's just easier to manage and control basically. So the vinyl record was easy and very simple, simple to play back, all right? Invented by Emil Berliner as a way of avoiding Edison's patent on cylinders, right? And Edison had patented his cylinder format immediately after he created it, all right? Berliner basically created something different and it basically avoiding his patent. Now he doesn't need to file for a patent because it's something that he personally created, all right? Now, the difference between the flat disc and the cylinder was that the stylus moved across the recording medium from left to right rather than up to down. The cylinder basically would move up to down, all right, but this would move, the flat disc would move from side to side. That's where the whole left to right recording came into existence. That's the whole beginning, okay? Now, when the recording was finished, the disc used to be kept in an acid bath. They still do it, basically. And the acid basically used to etch the metal where the recording stylus was exposed, basically. So what we're trying to say is when you would sing on it, there would be a small imprint on the recording element, on the recording material. Then when you dip it in acid, that's when it becomes permanent. That's when the recording would get etched into the disc, okay? And like we've already mentioned, the gramophone records just were more convenient, cheaper to make, much louder in reproduction. You know, if you record something on a flat disc, it was just when you play it back, it was loud, as compared to Edison's tin can invention. Although he's the founding father of the recording device or the speaking machine, but when you heard the recording back out loud, it was not very clearly audible, you know, as compared to Berliner's gramophone records. Cheaper to make, much louder, very good, popular with songs, and brass bands were leading the way, and that's everyone were using these process, and everyone basically had the discs, and all the popular songs were on this particular disc in itself. Okay, now this was the beginning of an industry. All right, it completely revolutionized the way music was reproduced, recorded, passed on, sold to the masses. Back then, they didn't have digital mediums. They didn't have a Spotify or an Apple account, or they didn't even have the internet. They could not share music as openly as we do today, right? They had a physical sort of a medium which they used to etch the music on, capture its essence, and then sell that physical product to the masses. So, the beginning of an industry. Okay, so the early discs showed that music recording could be a successful business. No one really knew that, right? Because it was never really done. But there was big potential, there was huge potential in the fact that it was a success. It was a thriving, growing business, basically. So the early discs were, they proved that music recording were a successful business, and it just picked up from there, you know. The process and the gramophones to play them on was still too crude to make serious music a viable proposition. What does this line mean? They mean that the gramophones, basically, the discs were mastered now, but the medium to play the discs on were not mastered, right? So now, see, they both need to go hand in hand. So you need to make sure that the record and the record player both need to be in proper working conditions. So back then, that was the process. The gramophone to play them on was still too crude, and to make serious music a viable proposition, it was still in works, all right? Wax was an ideal medium to make recordings on. Why? Because wax is comparatively softer. So when the stylus hits the wax, it actually etches the musical information in it more accurately than it could etch it on any other medium. Wax can take the shape of whatever you can imprint it on, whatever you use to imprint something on it, right? So wax became the ideal medium that they were using to make recordings on, all right? The gramophone became into a serious musical player. Serious musical reproducer means that it would reproduce sounds. So you record something prior, and then it would play it back, basically. So it became into a very serious musical reproducer, music player, music system, different words you could use for this. The improved fidelity of the wax is what replaced the whole acid etch system in 1901, which was a great step forward, because before there used to be an acid bath on the disc, it would etch the music in it, and so now we were using wax, which is much more easier. So now they would just press the vinyl and on the wax, and it would just be, it would last for a longer period of time. The record sizes were increased from 7 to 10 and soon to 12, which was another significant factor. We all know that LP sizes come in, record discs come in different sizes, the same shape, I was going to say different shapes and sizes, but it comes in the same shape, which is round, but in different sizes. So you basically have 7, 10, and then it came down to 12, okay? So 7 inches to 10 inches, and soon after it became 12 inches. Significant factor. Why? Because it can hold more data on it. Right? It can hold more data. The bigger the disk, the more information it has on it. All right. Okay. So the moving forward, this basically gave birth to a whole new industry, which we just spoke about, and let's try and put things slightly in perspective. Okay. Guys, don't worry, we're going to get to the more interesting part in a bit, right? We're going to open up a musical, we're going to open up the audio workstation that we work on, and I'm going to show you different aspects. But to understand all of these things, we have to understand where all these aspects come from, you know, like what is the history behind all of it. So let me just quickly continue on this. Let's put things in perspective. What you see on the left over here is actually a recording device. Okay, so people would speak into it, and this is what would capture the voice from the room and would convert and translate it onto the wax disc that was on the other end of the room. Okay, so back then, this is how recording began. Right, if you look at this, there is a cone right in front of them. You see how they've huddled up close together. You know, they all have come, like, they're all very tightly packed in this room. Can anyone think of the reason as to why? I will give you the answer to that, but why don't you think about why do you think they are so packed in the room? And if you want, you can send it to me in the chat window as well. You can send me the answer to that in the chat. Why are they so tightly packed in the same room, and why are they sitting so closely? So even at the bottom, you see this was the first recording ever that happened in Madras back then, and a couple of other images that you see. These are the only images available of the first ever recording device ever, you know, early recording devices. No, we don't have many more images on the internet. This is all that I could find, and this is all that there is actually, you know. So what is the one thing common between all of these images? It's that big domo, that the recording machinery that you see is pretty much behind a curtain. That what you saw was just the cone to capture the voice. It is not the recording machine. It's just the cone that allows you to capture the voice in a way. The recording machinery is basically behind the curtains. Why is it behind the curtains? Because it was loud. There was so much sound in that machine that it basically had to be kept away from the whole recording session that was happening, because then it would be very audible on the disc that it's being recording on. Okay, the horn in the front is what you see in most of the pictures. Okay, if I come back, all the let me just open up my cursor. You see this circular device, this device, this device, this device. This is called a horn. This is called a horn. The recording device was somewhere kept on the side over here, because now there used to be a curtain, a fat curtain, which would absorb all the sounds and reduce vibrations, and so the sound would not come back in the recording. Okay, so it was loud, kept out of sight. More importantly, it was to protect company secrets, because back then all of this equipment was not available from Amazon or off a store or Radio Shack. You had to literally custom make all of these things on your own, right? So they were not bought off the shelf. You had to place in special orders, and each company made its own. So they had a little secret, a little trick. I would like a horn to be a different light. I'm just making it up. I don't know what their actual requirements were, but that's how it was back then. Every recording company had their own sort of gramophone, own sort of horn, sorry, that they were using to record, own sort of equipment, recording machinery that they had. Okay, what we can see actually is the horn, which is suspended by a wire and wrapped with tape. All right, it's a very unorthodox arrangement that musicians are in front of it. Now, the musicians are in front of it because the horn had a radius of recording the voice, right? If this is the horn, it could only record the voice in a certain angle, right? So all the musicians who wanted to be recorded, or if you want to record that song, they had to be in that horn's recording radius, right? So if I speak, my voice is also thrown in a certain radius. So it needs to be captured by the horn. The horn is the input, so the sound needs to go into the horn so it can be captured on the disc, which is in the recording machinery behind the curtains, right? So now, why have they huddled up? Because when we all play music together, all our sound basically should go, it should be directed directly into the horn. That's why we see most of the musicians are all crowded. Okay, it's not because for the photographer's convenience where, hey guys, come to huddle up, let me take one quick picture of all of you in the frame. No, it's not that. It's to get the best possible focused, balanced sound. And this was only so that the sound could go into the horn. Okay, so that's pretty much why they have huddled up over here, you know. So this is the beginning of an industry. This is the beginning of sound recording as we know it. This is the beginning of the ease of technology, access that we have right now with all the goods and all the products that we use, especially for all the music producers. It's become so much more simpler right now, right? If we all look at it, that now recording has come down to something to be as simple as my smartphone. You know, I this phone has, or any phone to that matter, has a very good microphone in it. You know, if I have ideas on the fly, I can record people talking, I can take interviews, I can remove the recording, clean it up, make it brighter, and make it sound much and much better. Okay, so now that we have figured out how music recording began, let's quickly fast forward to the time NASA spent cats out in space on a chair with a synthesizer. This is not true, guys. This is just an image of a cat sitting on a synthesizer. Okay. So now this is my studio room right now where I'm sitting in operating form. I just want to show it to you guys how nice it looks. You know. So let's move forward to the time now where we were talking about recording in its primitive, crude art form. Moving forward to technology, how technology has advanced. We all know that before, to record a sound, a music producer, an artist needed to have a lot of resources to back them up to be able to actually record music, because equipment was expensive, recording was expensive, because every time you would record on a tape, and every recording required a new tape, and the tape was expensive. Everything was expensive back then. It was not as easily available. Right now, technology has evolved to such an extent that we have the liberty of using minimum resources to do the maximum amount of output that we can do. We have softwares, we have plugins, we have virtual instruments, we have recording devices now that are just so much better. It sounds great. There are portable recording devices that can fit in my pocket and can give me the recording quality, unimaginable recording quality. It's like, you can't imagine that I recorded this sound on some hilltop somewhere. It depends on the location I'm at, obviously. But the point is that the ease of access has become so much more better right now, right? So studios have evolved, technology has evolved, recording has evolved, instruments have evolved, everything. But it all began from that one point of sound recording. That's where the origin was. That's where the idea came from, you know. And I'm trying to track the whole sort of history of music production and sound recording. We can do that, but we need much more time to kind of explain that. So sound recording, moving forward straight to evolution and the studios and the great musicians that are behind it, and the birth of a music producer, and just what we do right now. So it's all to be credited right back to the origin, to the source, and to make sure we understand that it's been a long journey, yet a very short one. But you know, from crude wax and tinfoil mediums to now we record directly onto a hard drive, and storage is not an issue anymore. We have cloud space and so on and so forth. It's just become that much more easy, right? So post that, a recording engineer was born. From a recording engineer, artists were born. From artists, a music producer was born. And now we fast forward to the day that a music producer is a one-man army, and a one-man, one-woman army, and has multiple roles that he or she has to take care of. So let's discuss a few roles of a music producer. Okay, a producer is a composer, an arranger, a mentor, an innovator, a sound engineer, a sound designer, and most importantly, what everyone forgets, is a music producer is an artist. Okay, now why is he a composer? Why is he or she a composer? Because they have to compose their music, you know, otherwise you need to hire a composer. But those days people still do that, but most successful music producers are the ones who do everything themselves, because from the start to the end, it's their vision and they want to make sure that they execute it, right? So the role of a music producer is basically a composer. An arranger. What is an arranger? Arranger is someone who takes different elements of clips of music together and puts it together in his audio workstation. We will get to that after I finish the slide. Okay? He's a mentor. Why is he a mentor? Like, why? Because if I am a music producer and I have to record an artist, I have to motivate the artist, I have to inspire the artist, I have to make sure that the artist is comfortable with me, you know, because if we are recording a song, we never know how long it takes. So I have to motivate, I have to make them believe that yes, that the performance has to be great. So a producer has to have great skills, interpersonal skills as well. You need to be able to talk with the artist and feel for the artist, put put yourself in that person's shoes, and that's how you can guide a fellow artist and musician. So a composer, a producer also has to be a mentor. Innovator, because yes, it's innovation, right? You create a new song, it has to be innovative. So you're innovating something different, something new. It's the art, that's basically creativity. So innovation is right at the crux, at the core of any foundation of any music producer. Sound engineer and sound designer. Sound engineer or a recording engineer is basically someone who makes sure that the sound is captured correctly, because if I capture great sound in the very beginning, the final product of my record will be fantastic. Okay, so do not expect to capture bad sound and make it sound good. You can probably do that, but it won't be as good sounding as opposed to if you capture sound or record sound which is already sounding good, and then you take this good recording, clean recording, and you try to enhance it. Try picture that. Enhancing something which is already good versus enhancing something which is not so good. What will be better? That's your answer. Okay. So a sound designer, you have to design sound in a way that an ambience, atmosphere, and so on and so forth to kind of match the background that's going into it, right? So what you see behind me right now is all available inside something called as a DAW. Now, we've heard this term before. What is it? DAW, a DAW, man. What DAW do you use? What does DAW mean? DAW basically means a digital audio workstation. There are many DAWs now that you can use, are easily available. We have Logic Pro, we have Ableton, Pro Tools, Reaper, Studio One, Fruity Loops, many DAWs that are actually quite accessible and available to the masses. So let me quickly show you what Logic Pro looks like and how to go about using, just basically understanding of what I do. I'm just trying to get my settings in place so you guys can hear what I'm doing. Okay. So I'm going to give you a quick idea behind what I meant by an arranger, what I meant by a composer. So this is what we're going to talk about. The composer, arranger, sound engineer, sound designer. Let's just look at what all of these terms are, right? So now if I have to talk about, say, a sound designer, okay, so these are all the sounds that I've used to create an FX section for this particular piece over here. So if I only listen to this FX section, how will it sound? We'll make it slightly bit more interesting. Sound designing. I'm designing the sound. Well, it's just step number one, right? This is step number one. Now I have to add more elements to it so that it can sound complete. Now, how will it sound complete? So now I have this particular bass sort of sound FX idea over here. Now I have to keep on adding more and more elements to it. So now I will add something like a bass sound over here. Let's see how this bass goes with it. I'll bring the volume in. Bring in some musical elements. Right now, this is just like a bass and some random background noise that's going on over there, but it sounds incomplete without one of the most key elements, which is the drum section on it, right? So now let me play back this whole file and let me add the drum. Let's understand the value of the drums. The moment the drums come in, how does it sound as opposed to when the drums go out? Okay, so. this is just a very, very basic part. But now let's talk about being an innovator. Okay, very quickly, in under a minute, I am going to innovate a very, very new sort of a sound. Now, how am I going to innovate it? So I have this very, very basic keyboard with me over here, which I'm going to use to just create a very, very basic sort of a sound. All right. So what kind of sound do I want? I would basically want this really flowy sort of a sound, which I would like to add into my sort of music. So I'm going to create a sound from scratch. This is one of the tools that I use. This is a virtual instrument. Okay. So what I have to do is basically just tweak my settings up slightly, and I have a certain sort of a sound. So now I got to make sure that this actually matches the track that I am playing, right? So now I'm just going to add one of my favorite sort of, it gives a lot of fluidity to my sound, and I'm going to add this sort of movement over here. So this is an arpeggiator. So if I hit this play, let's see if it goes. That it has a very good sound to it. So let's quickly try and understand how we could record it. Okay, so I'm just going to increase this sound over here so it gets a little louder. That's what I'm hitting. Okay, so now that you see what I am playing and what's the medium I'm using to play it with, so all right, so I'm just going to quickly hit a record over here and show you how easy it has been to change and create this process. So, so that's the process has pretty much been completed. These are all the notes that I just played from this keyboard. If you notice that each key is related to the design or the line that's been drawn over here. Okay, so now if I hit play, listen to just this sound right now without the drums to understand how it sounds. So if you have to open up any one of the courses that you see, it's basically an introduction to a DAW, which is Logic Pro, right? So you can use these courses and apply the discount at checkout, right? When you are checking out, you can add the code MESC50. This will give you a 50% discount. So for example, if I open up Making Music, Ableton is basically a digital audio workstation, which people, successful producers have used. You see that it only costs $2990 for such a valuable course, 50% discount. So if you normally log on, you get a 40% off, but with MESC50, you'll get 50% off. Okay, you will see that there are trainers present on this course. You get certificates as well. You get an electronic certificate when you finish the course. So this is what your electronic certificate will look like once you have successfully completed the course, basically, right? So this is how you get your certification, and it's so nice, right? That you can actually learn something online and get a physical, get not a physical, electronic certification on this particular topic of discussion over here. So do check it out, guys. The web page is called learn.trueschool.in/courses. Remember the code MESC50. All right. Don't worry, I'm going to remind you guys about this a little later down in the presentation as well. I have duplicated the slide and kept it in the forward as well. So the best gift you can give yourself or your loved ones this year is the gift of education. Okay, please go to learn.trueschool.in/courses and do yourself a big one, a big favor, and learn a new skill, learn a new art form, learn how to make music, because it's not just about making music for a profession. It can be a great hobby. It's really good for creatively expressing what's going on, so it's absolutely nice. So very few questions that are common questions that people keep on asking me is that how to get started with producing music. It's basically, it's all good to know how and what a music producer does, but basically, how difficult is it to get started? What are the potential careers? How do you even get started? So many questions. We really don't know how all of these things work, but there are, the answers are actually quite simple. All right, so let me get back to it. What software should you use? What gear do you need? How do I write my first song? Where can I learn all of this? Like, wow, so many questions. So where can you learn all of this? We have, like I just showed you, learn.trueschool.in. As a beginner, that's perfectly the right kind of resource that you need to get started with producing music. You basically, all the gear you need is a laptop and a pair of headphones. That's pretty much all you need, because in the beginning, it's all about the software, right? So you can pick up on the software and you can learn how to use it by just having a good set of your headphones and just a laptop, a reliable computer. That's all you pretty much need, right? There are a lot of career options in the world of music production, sound creation, sound handlers, sound reproducers, so many of them. We'll get to that. I have a whole slide of list of potential careers that you can actually take up. Okay, how do you get started? The first thing to do before you get started is educate yourself. Okay, educate yourself. Just pick up on, it's a very simple course. All you need to do is focus on what you're learning, and once you get into the groove of understanding and the flow of learning, this will actually turn out to be very, very helpful. So how to get started with production or producing is, first step is to pick up and learn a software, learn the tool of the art. Now, many of our favorite producers started producing with no musical experience whatsoever. If you are saying, I have no experience in music, but can I still learn production? The answer is yes, you can. You can always pick up skills like songwriting and melody writing along the way. It's a part by part, it's a step by step process. You cannot expect to just go to bed one night thinking, hey, I want to be a music producer, and wake up the next day with all the skill set already pre-installed in your brain. You're not in the matrix, guys. It takes time. Okay, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes hard work, it takes perseverance. But let's not forget, it's not impossible. It's just a skills. It's just another software. It's just another sort of a creative tool that you need to use. And we as humans are very, very intelligent. So it's not a big deal for us. It's just if we have the drive and the will and the want to do it, anything is possible. Music theory is just one part of music production. And even those who have played an instrument before are only at a slight advantage. What do I mean by that? Is that you're going to be learning so many new things, so many different things right now, that even if you think you know something, the trick to learning something new is you unlearn and then you learn again. I hope that makes sense. You drop the notion of you think you know something, okay, and come completely blank. It's like, hey man, I'm here to learn. I'm blank. Teach. Share what you think you know, and I will pick up on whatever you have to say. So unlearn, learn is something that I would really like to kind of say it. So music production is a lot of fun, right? But make sure that you unlearn first of all the notions that you have in your head and learn something new, something fresh. Very, very nice, very refreshing in a way. So let's talk about music is equal to emotion, all right? this is like a philosophical talk now. Okay, it's music is equal to emotion is very important, guys. Music in a way can change your life. All right, there's always a perfect song for that moment of the life you're experiencing. You know how we are traveling down, like doing a long road trip, and we listen to this one song, and everything was just right. You know, but just use your imagination. You're driving down, say, a highway, and it's the monsoons. There are these clouds, and it's the rainbow across the corner. Beautiful, the smell of wet soil, and you're listening to this track, and you're just driving down, and it feels blissful. You're at peace, and you're just moving forward. Okay. Now, the next time you hear that same track, you are probably traveling in a taxi or an auto or in a local train or something on those grounds, and you in your head automatically go back to that moment where you actually were on the highway and you experienced peace and bliss, right? So music has the capability of transforming and transporting you into a place which you had been to before, right? So it basically takes you back to that emotion that you already felt, because once you feel an emotion, there's no way of undoing that feeling, because now it's always going to be present with you. You're always going to feel it, right? So basically there's a perfect song for every moment of your life. You know, you will probably think about an event or an experience just based on that particular music or that particular sound, you know. And certain songs will forever be tied to time periods and emotions that you have felt. This is what I said. It's like you're the most happiest at a certain point in time, and it's like you got a new thing or you passed your exam, and there is the soundtrack playing in the background, and that becomes the soundtrack of that moment. So whenever I listen to that song, I always think of that moment, you know, that moment when I was driving, that moment when I was happy, or that moment when I was sad, depending on what emotion you have. You know, you can't always be happy. You also have to be sad as well, you know, balance it out. So music can bring back memories, emotions of anything that is tied to it during that moment when your mind and your brain experience that sound. So music is equal to emotion, right? So music, for me at least, is like a time machine. It takes me back. I just told you, like, you know, great songs will go hand in hand with great memories. My parents still love listening to music of their youth. It brings them back, you know. If they listen to this old song on the TV, they're like, oh man, like I was in college when this song was good, and they start the whole line of story. And it's interesting to hear that, hey, even like, because we are in the music profession, so it's natural and normal for me to say such things because this is what I do. But for my parents to say this out loud, it just is good, because I thought that this feeling was just for me. But the truth of the matter is that this is a universal feeling. Everyone feels this, right? Music has the power and the potential to do this for you, right? My friends who don't listen to the kind of music I listen to, they still love music from high school. It brings them back. Music has, it basically just reminds your brain that, hey, this is what you had felt when you heard me the last time when I played 5 years back, 10 years back. So it's a very intertwined sort of a feeling and emotion, right? So it's actually a very, very good feeling that it takes you back. You know, it actually brings you back, and it's really, really nice to see this basically. So music, what it does is that it, or rather, if you are a musician, what is your main goal? What would be my main goal of making music? I would say I would like to emotionally connect on a deeper level with people with the music I make. I am looking forward to creating memories. Think about it. Now, if I'm an artist and if someone tells me that, hey man, I heard your song 3 years back and I was really, really happy, and something very good happened in my life, and today, after 5 years, I'm listening to the same song and it takes me right back to that moment. Thank you so much for producing it. What have I done? I have received a compliment, great. But what I've actually done is I've created a memory. I've created a memory for someone else, right? That is the fulfilling part of being a music producer. That is the reward I'm looking for. Obviously, you have to look at monetary gains down the line somewhere if you're doing it professionally for survival, but that's not it. You know, you're looking for fulfillment. It's a reward. If someone comes and tells me your track created a memory in my head, great. It means a lot to me. You know, we have the power to connect people, places, stories for years and years and years to come, you know, because if I make a track today, and basically people talk about it down the line, it's the same music my parents listen to, something which was recorded in the 1960s, 1970s, but they still listen to it. So they are so in tune, connected with how things were back then. You know, your track could be the song when a couple meets for the first time, you know, a guy meets his future wife for the first time, forever holding that particular track to that situation. I have so many friends who do this. They start following a certain artist because they went to a place, they met them for the first time, and it was this one soundtrack playing in the background. You know, you've seen our Bollywood movies when they run towards each other and there is music playing. So that music is creating an emotion. As silly or as funny as it may sound, it actually is true. All right. Your music has the potential to change the world if you're lucky, or at least influence an entire generation. Again, if you're lucky. All right. We have reached an oversaturated point right now, but we have musicians who have changed, influenced an entire era, an entire generation of people. Okay, we have musicians whose music we still listen to, and it still feels so damn good. Until that, even today, I listen to it. It was recorded in the 1960s, 1950s, but the way I listen to it right now, I can still feel that emotion which was exhibited back then. It's amazing, right? Now, let us look at something else. Music as a product and as a service. Let's come back. Let's see. All of the other topics that we're talking about it goes hand in hand with it's basically a part of the whole. You know, so music as an emotion, we have to understand it. Music and recording, where it came from, we have to understand it. It's all, you have to know it. It's like, why did we learn history in school? You know, similarly, if you're learning music production, you have to understand at least 1% of its history. Can't be oblivious to the fact and just start picking up on a tool. You have to understand everything else, all the struggles, everything that goes with it. Okay, so music as a product and as a service. People say that music is not a product. Why? Because music per se is immaterial and it's information. How can it be a product? Product is something I can touch and feel. My headphone is a product. My phone is a product. But how can music be a product? Music is actually a product. And the proprietorship laws in India or in the world that govern music making, it says very clearly that performing and listening to music also attributes to that of a product. So music can be considered as a service, but the medium that it's portrayed on, for example, a CD, a DVD, a t-shirt, okay, all of these things make it into a product. So music is also a service. Music is also immaterial per se and informational, but it's also a product. So music can be a product and it is a service. Now, let's talk about music as a product. And just the music producer has a very important role set on him. The role is basically he has to sell the music as a product. That's his main goal. The true product is the emotion behind it. Think about it. It's the true emotion that comes behind the music. The producer has to ensure the emotion is portrayed in the clearest and the best way possible, or the most appropriate way possible. Okay? Because why does it have to be clear? Because if I am giving it to the masses, the general population, everyone needs to understand what I'm trying to say. Different career paths of music production and music producers. You can choose your traditional artist career. You can make music and perform for thousands of people live if that's what you're into. Audio engineering, very, very important. It's the most important of the lot. All your favorite songs, bands that you listen to, what do they have in common? A good audio engineer is the guy, the man or the woman who sat behind that chair recording these artists for hours and hours together, making it sound as good as they sound right now. It's all an audio engineer. A commercial production, teaching is good. Sound design is a very good tool. Healing, yes, medicine. Sound has healing properties, you know. Look it up. It's actually very good. Your body functions on a certain frequency, and if a sound can tap into that frequency, fantastic. Music for gaming, music for applications, music for films, TVs, online. Okay, so different sorts of job profiles, job roles that you can do. You know, it's actually very, very interesting, and yeah. So the music producer has a different process. Okay, they basically, it's very difficult. So they have to record, they have to program, they have to work with the artists, they have to make sure they bring out the best from the artist. Then there's a mixing process, there's a mastering process, and there are countless hours of listening to the same song over and over again. Or you have to listen to your own music thousands of times. And the first 500 times you're like, it sounds great. But then the 600th time you hear it, you're like, oh, this part sounds terrible. You know, I don't know how that works. It's like your brain automatically gets saturated 600 times. And it tells you, okay, hey, boss, look at it. Like your music, there's one part which is off. I heard it 500 times already. Why couldn't I pick it out then? So I listened to it. Okay, I'm exaggerating with the count of 500 and 600, but you get the drift after listening to it so many times, you know. And yeah, countless hours usually miss out on small details that only comes back once my brain is hammered and saturated with that sound over and over again, and then I listen to that same track again. Okay, now this is an exercise I would like to do quickly. Music in advertisements and movies. I want to show you the importance of music. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this video without sound. Okay, let's watch this video. It's a 2-minute video. There is no sound attached to it. Okay, so we will watch this video as it is. I will give you some terrible commentary in the back, and then we'll play this video with sound. All right, so there's a car and there's a cat. You can see that. Well, that rhymed. And yeah, it's a Toyota ad. There's a cat in it. Cat's injured. Car. Lawnmower. Fur. You get the point. Imagine watching ads on television if they would play like this. Right? I would get seriously bored because an ad is as good as the music which is attached to it. This is a very cute ad, and I feel bad for that cat, or not, or for that dog actually. He got mauled by the cat. But what I'm trying to understand, what I'm trying to show over here is that music and importance of music in anything, in any sort of ad films of sorts. Okay? If you get the drift, it's boring in a way. I don't know what happened. The cat. Oh, it's a dark ad. Return of the pussycat. Yes, it's enjoying its drive in the Corolla. Right? Now we saw this without the music. Now let's understand the emotion behind the ad the moment I play the music on it.
Oh. Come on.
L'amour m'étrange de sa lame et me envenime. L'amour, c'est le soufflet qui me fait respirer à nouveau. Pour les autres, cela peut sembler étrange, mais ce que je fais, je le fais par amour. C'est étrange, mais l'amour a sa propre anesthésie. Les pires de l'enfer sont consommés par sa flamme. C'est l'amour qui brûle derrière les yeux de cet homme. L'amour.
Feels good inside. It actually does. The whole music had such a nice connection with the ad, and it just completed the whole ad. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say over here. You know? And another aspect of music as a product is capturing the emotion. It's a very big task. Even your normal music should actually allow you to capture sort of an emotion. Now, if I play this song over here, it has sounds of the wave, right? There's voice in the background, and there is this really nice, smooth sort of an emotion that is being portrayed through the track over here, you know. So
वो मिलते हैं like अगर आप formal education में जा रहे हैं, for say in any school, you have a guidance of people who have already experience of 10 years, 20 years,
absolutely,
50 years in the field. So of course you get extra knowledge and extra insights into it.
I think if I may conclude that, Pooja, I think you put a very, very valuable point forward. Absolutely. That's something I completely missed out on, Pooja. What you said just puts a full stop on that question, you know. You get guidance, you get mentorship, you get someone who is experienced enough to show you the path. That is the best, Guru and Shishya.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I agree with you.
That's what Vidyadan is all about.
Absolutely.
Guru Shishya.
Yes.
It's beyond formal education.
True.
Okay,
True.
so with this note, I'd like to thank True School of Music. I'd like to thank, of course, Piran Irani for conducting such a wonderful 2-day workshop with us.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. So let's go ahead with our upcoming series. Yes, next week is very, very important. We have Mr. Subhash Kaiji is coming on June 3rd, 5:30 p.m. to meet you all and interact with you. Also, tomorrow we have Mr. Ashutosh Sharma with social media marketing course, Creative Warrior free online masterclasses on social media marketing with certification. June 2nd onwards, we have smartphone filmmaking. Smartphone filmmaking is something that I think everybody loves to do. Making a film with the phone in your hand, it will be a good thing to learn. Then gaming industry has so much to share with you. We are coming with Majors Institute of Excellence Singapore. They will be going ahead with a workshop on gaming, different aspects of gaming and animation. And yes, June 3rd is very, very important as Mr. Ghai, our honorable chairman, renowned filmmaker and educationist, is coming over on Vidyadan at 5:30 p.m. So stay tuned for that. Enjoy your Sunday, rest of the day, of course, and see you tomorrow. 11 o'clock is the time for tomorrow. All right, so do register. Visit Vidyadan, share your feedback, tag us on social media, and enjoy your life. Take care, stay safe, stay happy.
See you guys. Thank you all for coming in once again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pooja, for having me.